Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, on the behalf of the Austrian Academy of Sciences, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming to today's OeAW-Statistik Austria Lecture. My name is Ulrike Diebold, and I'm serving as the Vice President of the Austrian Academy of Sciences currently. I would especially like to welcome Professor Linda Nøstbakken. She is our speaker today. And I also want to extend a very warm welcome to the General Director of Statistics Austria, Tobias Thomas, who will speak right after me. I also want to welcome warmly Isabella Buber-Enser, who stands in for Alexia Föhngrantz-Pruskowitz, who unfortunately is ill. We all wish her a very speedy recovery. Isabella is a scientist at the Vienna Institute of Demography, and she will then introduce Professor Nøstbakken in more details later. Just a very brief background about the format of these joint events between the OeAW and the Statistics Austria Lectures. These take place twice a year. I've had the pleasure of participating and listening to a few of those already. I always came back very enlightened and inspired. We've had excellent speakers. There's a small workshop always before that was also held today. I've heard very good things about it, very productive for this collaboration between scientists at OeAW or scientists in Austria generally in Statistics Austria. They focused, so far there have been very renowned experts such as Axel Bösch-Supan, Gabriel Alfeld, Regina Riphan, who spoke last year, Dietmar Haarhoff, Clemens Fust, and Lars Feld. They all have provided very fascinating insights into their research. And today, Professor Nøstbakken will explore the interplay between economic research and official statistics. She will demonstrate how rich and reliable data can help enhance our understanding of economic, environmental, and societal trade-offs, a topic very high relevance for today's policy agenda. I wish us all, and you, and us all, a very enjoyable evening, and I very much look forward to an interesting lecture. And I want to hand over to General Director Tobias Thomas. Thank you very much.
Yeah, dear Vice President Diebold, dear Professor Nøstbakken, distinguished colleagues, dear guests, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 7th lecture of the Austrian Academy of Science and Statistics Austria. The close collaboration of the Austrian Academy of Science and Statistics Austria is an endeavor close to my heart. As you know, I'm not only Director General of Statistics Austria, but an academic by myself, and since some weeks, a Professor of Economics at University of Graz. My deep appreciation for the partnership of academia and official statistics couldn't be stronger, because I truly believe that with this cooperation, the challenges of today can be tackled best. I'm delighted that today's keynote speaker, Professor Nøstbakken, is a prime example of this invaluable cooperation. Her scientific work and expertise on environmental data and methodological developments in official statistics illustrate the potential gains of this collaboration. If we want to develop impactful reforms, we must be able to rely on a profound databases. X-aggregation and polarization are counterproductive. A well-informed, evidence-based public discourse is necessary to overcome the challenges we are facing as society today. In both worlds, academia and official statistics, if both are working closely together, we can build a better informed society and improve the landscape for policy making for the common good. We can use findings on causal relationships to generate more growth, prosperity, to achieve more ecologic, economic, and social sustainability, and to overcome the multiple crises affecting us today and in future. For all those reasons, improving the data access for science is something we should strive towards. In Austria, the establishment of the Austrian Microdata Center at Statistics Austria is a milestone in this respect. The AMDC currently provides more than 100 linkable data sets from the entire universe of text data over education data to health data to more than 60 national and international research institutions from Amsterdam over Helsinki to Okinawa in Japan. In reaction to our experiences, other countries are currently striving to improve their own research data infrastructures. For instance, Germany, where I'm coming from, is currently working on a national legislation of a German microdata center at the Federal Statistics Office in Germany, Destatis, based on the experience of the AMDC. The increasing foreign interest demonstrates how much the AMDC contributes internationally to the profile and appeal of Austria as a research location. Now, the AMDC is an important step in the right direction, but our work doesn't end here. Our efforts rest upon the foundation of improving the entire data ecosystem, at least of the public sector. If we want to see sustainable improvements, we must improve the functionality of the Austrian microdata center, Austrian data ecosystem step by step. The finalization of the Austrian data strategy is a central pillar for economic and social progress. Regardless of the outcome of the recent national election, our aim must remain to continue improving the governance, ensuring finance and strengthening Statistics Austria coordination function in the national data and statistics ecosystem, as noted by the ESS peer review recently. We aim the coordination function in the context of the implementation of the European Data Governance Act. A corresponding Data Access Act is currently under evaluation. While the future government is still course of negotiation between potential partners, one thing is clear. In times of uncertainty from economic recession over geopolitical crisis, reliable figures based on official statistics are indispensable and more important than ever. Our decision makers, whoever they may be, must be able to rely on a numerical compass to navigate difficult situations based on facts and not on feelings. I believe that the relevance of this in making that happen cannot be understated. Likewise, it must be ensured that, of course, necessary funds and resources are located. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude the close collaboration between the Austrian Academy of Sciences and Statistics Austria mark a significant contribution to the collaboration between academia and official statistics, therefore to evidence-based policy making as a whole. I wish to sincerely thank everyone who is involved for making this happen. In particular, I would like to express my gratitude to the President of the Austrian Academy of Science, Professor Heinz Fassmann, who cannot be present tonight, and of course to Vice President Diepold, who is an important supporter of our collaboration. Finally, I would like to thank Professor Alexia Furnkranz-Priskowitz for her dedication to push this collaboration forward from the very first moment. We wish her all the best and a speedy recovery. Now I have the pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Isabella Buber-Enser to introduce our keynote speaker of tonight, Professor Linda Nøstbakken. Dr. Buber-Enser, the floor is yours.
So, dear Vice President, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, I have the honor to briefly introduce our guest today. Linda Nøstbakken is Research Director of Statistics Austria since 2020 and Professor at the Norwegian School of Economics since 2016. Previously, she was Deputy Rector and Vice Rector for Academic Affairs at the Norwegian School of Economics. Before her career in Norway, she was assistant professor at the University of Alberta in Canada. Linda's research focuses on the use and management of natural resources with recent work on marine resource, endangered species protection, and renewable energy transition. She publishes in the top economic and environmental journals, including the European Economic Review or Energy. In addition, she has served on the editorial board of the most prestigious journals in environmental economics. Linda has served also on governmental expert commissions and advisory panels, and currently she is a board member of the Research Council of Norway, the president-elect of the European Association of Environmental and Resource Economics, and member of an advisory committee on fiscal policy, as well as member of the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters Committee for Climate, Environmental and Resource Use. I'm very happy to have you here today. We had a very fruitful workshop before, and the floor is yours, and please give us a presentation now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. When I got the invitation, I did not know I was going to give a talk in this amazing hall. So I still said yes, but if I had known, there is no way I could have ever even thought about saying no, because this is the nicest room I think I will ever speak in. But fortunately, I got to see it earlier, so I'm able to talk now. So that's good. So thank you also for the very kind invitation and for the nice introduction. So I will start my presentation, and I will start with a slide that we often use when we talk about statistics in Norway, because now I'm with Norwegian Statistics Norway, and I am a researcher, as you said, so I come in as an academic, but then getting to know the world of statistics, basically. So it's been an interesting journey. But what we often say is that official statistics are the nation's common factual basis and are essential for a living democracy. It's crucial for good planning, for evaluation, for debate, and for research. And then we can think of data and official statistics as a public good with universal access. And this is easy to just show you, and then we say, sure, right? But this is huge, because it is so important, especially today, to have this common factual basis, something we can agree on when we debate and discuss and decide how to go ahead with whatever we're doing in society. So this is the starting point, because I think it's very important to remind us why official statistics are important. And then we can talk about, we talked about this over lunch today, fake news. Misinformation, disinformation, fake news has become a big thing. Maybe it has always been there, but at least it gets more attention these days. And now it's not just about fake news, it's also about alternative facts, and it's about alternative experts or alternative research, right? And this challenges our system in a big way. And we are facing challenges today, as I would say society has faced challenges since the very beginning of time, but at least since we are here now, we can say that we face big challenges now. And then we need to have good information that we can agree on, so we can make good decisions, and so we can basically agree. That's also something that's important. So official statistics and, say, non-proprietary data might at least be part of what we need to combat alternative facts. We need more, but it's an important stepping stone to combat this. So we need relevant and accurate data and statistics. We need to ensure that what we deliver, it's high quality. We need to have transparency, and we need to communicate clearly, and we also need to acknowledge uncertainties, because there are always uncertainties. So I looked up, and there was a survey, an EU survey in 2018, and 83% of respondents said that fake news represents a danger to democracy. The number I checked for Austria was a little higher, 85%. 68% say that they come across news or information that they believe misrepresent reality or is false at least once a week. And again, here the Austrian audience was a little bit below, 66%. So are these significant differences? I don't know, but these are the numbers. They also say that misinformation, disinformation, it spreads quickly because it's often based on emotions rather than facts. And this is where we're at. So we need facts, so we have something to agree on, and we need to be able to trust that what the Statistical Institute, the official statistics, that they are trustworthy. And if there are uncertainties, we will also communicate that clearly so that we, again, have this common basis that we can build our discussions and decisions on. So this is just to illustrate that what we do is important, as if you didn't know about this. And then I'm going to talk more about data, because my place at Statistics Norway is I'm the head of the research department, and we use data. We use a lot of data in our research. And I think also we can say that data is an essential public good. It's important for driving knowledge, for informing decisions, and for shaping society. So I'm going to say a little bit about what is there in general, but also how we do this in Norway. So since we have this special setup with the research department at the Statistical Institute, I think that might be interesting. It also, now that you almost have a research department here, since given my introduction, you didn't notice this, but me, the research director of Statistics Austria. So it would maybe be relevant for you to also hear how things are going in Norway with this setup. Okay. Data is essential for generating new knowledge. For causal relationships, we need data. To understand individual behavior, to identify trends, also to model future scenarios. I could add to this list, but data is essential. It supports good decision-making. Decisions can be informed by detailed research and analysis, and we can have evidence-based policy and more effective targeted interventions. And then I said that data is an essential public good. First of all, it's non-rivalry. So if I use the data, it's still accessible to everyone else. Maybe it's non-excludable. It could be, because there is no reason why it should not be, other than legal reasons, right? There are privacy concerns, and we have these regulations. So there could be restrictions to protect privacy. But if that was not an issue, it would be both non-rivalry and non-excludable, so a public good. So with good data, we could do so much, and that's what's happening. I'm sure it could be better. In Norway, we have rich administrative registry data. Now the rest of the field is catching up with us, like Austria, with all the data that's become available to researchers here. In 1995, there was a survey, and they said that Atkinson, Rainwater, and Smeating, I can say these names because they're big names, and so it has a bit more punch when I say this, but this was back in 1995. They said about Norwegian registry data that they are rated as exceptional in this international quality assessment, so exceptional. The data has become much better since then. We have more data now than we had in 95. But then, of course, what you compare us to has also become better. So what would they say today? Maybe still exceptional. The data that we have, the administrative data, which are collected and maintained by different official government agencies for administrative purposes, we get a lot of this into Statistics Norway, and we use this to produce official statistics. The data covers the entire population of individuals and firms, which means that you can follow an individual from basically being born, you go through the school system, you get jobs, you move through different jobs in different companies, and we can follow you until the day you die, and we also have data on that, right? So you have everything a person does that would be registered in these registries. Going back to the 60s, so that's a long, long time horizon. And these data can be linked via unique identifiers, which provides comprehensive coverage for people doing research or using the data for statistics. In Norway, this started. I'm going to do a little bit of a history thing here because, it is to explain why are we here? Why do we have a research department at Statistics Norway? But a little bit of history is that Norway established the Central Population Register in 1964. This was based on the 1960 census. So when I say we have data over a long period of time, it goes back all the way to 1964 when they did the first population register. There was a big push always. My colleagues say that Statistics Norway, they've always pushed for registers. So the register-based statistics. So there was the Central Population Register. Other administrative registers were also established, and this paved the way for using registers as a data source for producing statistics. I have a colleague I've never met, but I've come across his name often, and his name is Svein Nordbakken. I can see some people nodding because I think he was a big name for register-based statistics, and he was pushing this, promoting this, right? So we've had some really key people that have contributed to what we see today. So let's go then to what comes next, because since then this has become an increasing bit. So today we have more than 100 administrative registers that we use data from in Statistics Norway to produce statistics. And this also then becomes available for researchers who want to do research or whatever projects that they want to do. And here we see this. Some main ones that are displayed here. You have the one to the left. This is the Central Coordinating Register for Legal Entities. Here you will find all companies and enterprises. And you can follow them over a long period of time. You have the one in the middle, which gives you the properties, addresses, and buildings, meaning that I'm going to show you some examples in a bit, where we have data from electricity meters, and we link this to data on the households and data on the buildings. For example, how many square meters, how many rooms. You have lots of information like this, and then we can study energy consumption, for example, or energy savings, which is the example I'm going to show you. And then we have the National Register, which includes individuals and families living or having lived in Norway. So you can follow all these over time, and everything can be linked. And we can see that the increased digitization and this push for registers have paid off in a sense. We have lots of registry data. And then there are these emerging data sources. This is going on around us as we speak, the digitization of society, providing an abundance of new data sources. To take them in and use them for producing statistics is another story. It requires some work, but still there's a lot of development here, and there is a goal, I think, for everyone producing statistics to use these new data sources to produce better statistics more frequently and or at lower cost, including lower burden for the public in reporting to, for example, us or Statistics Austria. And then this data, it brings incredible opportunities for research. So we already have so much data, but there are some areas where we have more data than others. And now we could fill in the gaps in a sense, and we could even get more. So this would open up so many doors and so many possibilities for asking and analyzing very interesting research questions. So the positives is amazing. But then I would say there are also some significant challenges, and particularly around maintaining privacy and data security, because that's the typical balance, right? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about trust, because it is a key factor. We can look at different countries and different parts of the world. We have so much data in the Nordic countries, and the level of trust is high, right? If we mess this up, if people lose the trust in us, I do not think that they will allow us to get and connect all this data. So we need to maintain that trust so we can continue to make use of this valuable data. And I think especially now with all this digitalization and all the data becoming available, this is a concern that we need to tackle this in a good way. So I said that I was going to talk a little bit about the history, so I'm going to do that. First, what do Statistics Norway do in this? So of course, Statistics Norway produce statistics. That's the main business. But Statistics Norway also, in the Statistical Act in Norway, it says that Statistics Norway should do statistics and research. So it's said in the Act that we should continue to do research. So what do we do in the research area is what I'm going to talk about. So we collect registered data from government agencies. So these are the data owners typically. And then we use these data from different registers, and we add surveys that we conduct ourselves to produce official statistics. This is pretty straightforward, I guess. It's not straightforward, but it's what you would expect. But then, for the research community, we share microdata, much like you do here with the Center for Microdata. We do it slightly differently, but the setup is the same. So we make all this data available to the research community, register data covering the entire population of individuals and firms. There could be survey data, but that's a little harder because you need consent to link survey data with registry data. So that's a bit more of a challenge. And doing all this, it enables the research community, I would say including us, the research department at Statistics Norway, to do in-depth studies of relationships and interactions among a range of phenomena. Measuring the impact of outcomes of events, interventions, policies, and also to inform policy and set up targeted policy interventions. So this is valuable. I shouldn't have to say in this building that research is valuable, right? But research is valuable. So I'm going to show you a picture. I don't know if you recognize this man. We just got the announcement of who won the Nobel Prize in Economics this year. It was announced very recently. This one was the first one who ever won the Nobel Prize in Economics. His name is Ragnar Frisch. He's from Norway. And he won the Nobel Prize with Tinbergen, Jan Tinbergen. And he is known for several things. He's known for pioneering the field of econometrics. He is known for coining the terms macroeconomics and microeconomics as in 1933. So if you go back only 100 years, these words were not there. Now we use them all the time. And also for contributing to the development of dynamic economic models, which is what gave him the Nobel Prize. And Frisch's work, why I'm showing you the picture, is because his work underscores the importance of data and empirical research in economics and policy making. But that's not the only reason why I'm showing you the picture of Ragnar Frisch, because I could have shown you many econometricians and said the same thing, although this one is from Norway, so maybe that's the thing. He played a key role in establishing the research tradition at Statistics Norway. So he's a key player. That's why I'm showing you the picture. And that's bringing me to this, our dual role, statistics and research. So now there will be more history. I should say I had a lot, this gave me a lot, reading these old stories to figure out why do we have a research department at Statistics Norway. So thank you to you for pushing me into this. Here we have another old picture. This is Petter Jakob Jerve, to the right, the adult in the picture. He was SSB's director. SSB is Statistics Norway. So if I say that, read it as Statistics Norway. SSB's director between 1949 and 1980. When they tried to get him to take up this job, it was not an easy sell. He was doubting this because he also had the ambition of becoming an academic. He wanted to go to university to write a dissertation and get his PhD and have a job in academia. So they were trying to convince him to do this. This picture, they had managed to convince him. He was on his way now from the US on the boats, the big passenger boat Stavangerfjord, from the US, New York City, to Oslo. And he was going to resume to take the job as SSB director. But as a condition for accepting his position, he said they had to establish a research department. And I found especially this picture, this quote that I found. This is from a letter from Bjerve to the Nobel laureate Ragnar Frisch in 1948, so the year before he came to take the position. He says, "I'm genuinely afraid of growing old before my time if I end up in the bureau." So the Statistics Bureau. "This fear is one of the reasons why I don't want to start there without the possibility of gathering a team of really skilled economists in the Bureau. Only then do I think it could come to life down there, and then I might also be able to avoid sinking into a constant administrative rush." I recognize this. Maybe I shouldn't say that here, but I was feeling a little bit the same when I was thinking he's going from an academic job to a job in Statistics Norway. It didn't happen, so it's okay, because they have a research department. Probably not only for that reason, but it's you can see that he was trying. He wanted to have these interesting debates. He liked the academics, and he wanted research close by. So he set it as a requirement for going. And in the picture, he is with his son, Steinar, who also got a PhD in statistics later on. So that stayed in the family in that sense. I should say that even before this time, they had something that resembled a research department, because the part of the bureau, to use Ragnar Frisch's word, the Bjerve's words, they had the section doing, or the part doing national accounts, and another well-known guy from the time, OeAW-Statistik, said that he worked, the work I'm currently doing at the Bureau has a strong scientific character. I'm the head of the Office of Economic Studies, which is the Bureau's research department. He said this in 1948. So it was not like a whole new world, but at least they set up a formal research department in 1950, and it has stayed there ever since. When they did this, it was a novel concept. It's not a novel concept now, but it's not something you will find almost anywhere else outside of Norway. It faced skepticism. Another former research director at Statistics Norway wrote a book about this. So I read this now. And you can see all the debates between the different players, for and against, and So this was definitely, it faced skepticism from other institutions and policymakers. But over time, it grew in importance, and it has been providing critical research for national policy. And as a colleague of mine said the other day, we have been very influential in shaping the welfare system of Norway with the research that we do. And I agree with that. So it's been a really important institution ever since the 1950 when it was established. So today, I would claim it's a leading institution for applied economic research in Norway. And as I said, the Statistics Act of 2019, the new Statistics Act, reaffirmed this dual role of statistics and research. So there are clear synergies of having both roles, but as I will return to later on, there are also some challenges. So I think I'm going to say, let's start with the synergies. So ever since the beginning, a key task of the research department has been to work with people doing statistics, right? So in the beginning, a big topic was national accounts. So these were developed around the time when the research department was set up. So in the early years, a key task was to be part of this development. Today, the national accounting people in Statistics Norway, and I would assume also Statistics Austria, are working with ecosystem accounting. So getting the value of nature and ecosystem goods and services kind of to be part of the national accounts, or at least possible to add them and compare them to the national accounts. And so today, the research department is contributing to this. So if something is being developed, we're part of it. So in any event, the work on national accounting laid the foundation for modern macroeconomic modeling in Norway. And today we have lots of research going on, primarily using Norwegian data. We have macroeconomic models, we have micro-simulation models, we do demographics, public economics, labor markets, taxation, macroeconomics, not just the modeling, the big models, environmental and resource economics, innovation, and then I said etc., because there is more. And we contribute to the development and production of statistics within Statistics Norway. I gave an example with the national accounts, but there are lots of collaboration between people in my department and people in the statistics department. And we also use the data, and as I would often say, we're a critical user of Statistics Norway data. We can ask questions, we can ask for better documentation. Sometimes maybe we can find something that doesn't quite add up because we use many cohorts of data in a sense. And this might also be useful. And then what we have to do is to disseminate our findings and be very transparent. And this dual role is maybe interesting because we have close proximity both to the statisticians, if we can call them that, those producing the statistics, and to where the data is stored. So it's easy for us to go and ask questions, right? Because our colleagues are the experts. We can easily go and find them. So I would say this supports research-based innovation. There is also knowledge transfer because we would share between or across departments, both from research to statistics, but also the other way. And I would say that there are synergies, so hopefully we're all better off because of the other one. We need to have a deep understanding of the national context because we are there to do research that should give policy support in Norway. So then you need to understand the Norwegian economy, the Norwegian society, basically, and you need to understand the policy needs. And I think that because we're there since the 1950, there is continuity in long-term research and in modeling projects. So we can continue to develop the models and push this forward over time. So this sounded very positive, and then there are some challenges. One is balancing I would say the perceived objectivity in statistics production and research. Because if you're a researcher, you would communicate your findings, and since we are supposed to do research that have policy relevance, we would do research that says, this policy is better than the other policy, for example. And if you say that, then it sounds like you have an opinion. And then Statistics Norway don't have an opinion, right? So you see the kind of conflict in that sense. And this means that we need to make a very clear distinction between what is statistics and what is research output, right? What are research findings? What are my conclusions as a researcher studying this topic, asking this question? And what is the official statistics? We also see that sometimes I think it's tempting for the media to forget about this distinction because it gets attention. People look their way. So we also have to be extra careful because it matters. If you have, I'm sure it's the same here. If Statistics Norway says something, it means more than if just a random researcher or a professor would say it. So to put Statistics Norway thinks that, or if Statistics Norway says that, it adds something, right? So it's something that the media and others would use, and I would say even misuse, to get attention. So then we need to be even more careful with how we present our work, so that we can say, as a researcher, this is what I did and this is what I found, right? So that you have to always keep this distinction in mind. And even then, it's hard. So there is a potential for stakeholders to get confused about different organizational roles. And also something that was, I would say, stressed in the preparatory work of the new Statistics Act is that we should not have an advantage when competing for research grants because we're close to the data. So there are lots of, well, not lots of, but at least there are measures in place to put us on equal footing with our competitors, in a sense. So that's something I think we can relatively easily deal with. We do not have privileged data access when competing with others. Then we have to go around outside the building and get in line and get data, just like any other researcher. Okay, so back to my history bit. In 1950, Ragnar Frisch wrote a letter to the minister who was heavily involved in also getting Bjerve, the one who was traveling from the US with his son, to take the position of as director of Statistics Norway, Erik Brofoss. He was a minister of the government, and he was communicating also with Ragnar Frisch about this research department. So what he says was, in the research department at the Bureau, one must recruit people with scientific perspectives. The competency requirements for these positions in the Bureau may not be exactly the same as those at the university, but the difference should only be directional, not in terms of level. If this standard is not upheld, the Bureau's research will just become research, in quotation marks. And then he goes on. He actually talks a little bit about where you can find this research. So he says, when one thinks about the kind of research, including tax research, that has so far been conducted by the, in all other respects, excellent people in the central administration, it quickly becomes clear that it is not just an academic whim to require scientific perspectives from those who are to work in the Bureau's research department. They really need good research to make good policy recommendations, is what he says. I should add that he probably had a personal interest in this because he was producing candidates who needed jobs, right? So why not have a research department where you can get placement for your good students close by? But still, this is what he said. And when I found this, I found it very interesting because this is exactly how we think about it now. We want to hire the best researchers we can get in our fields. We want them to have the possibility to work at the university department, and they should choose us because they get something else from us. In the last 25 years, we're celebrating, and we have an anniversary coming up, so we've been doing some counting. In the last 25 years, we have produced 14 university professors. The most well-known is University of Chicago professor Magne Mogstad. He started his career with us. He still works for us. And there are 13 others, right? So we want to get the best ones. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to be excellent at teaching, but you have to be able to communicate with policymakers and to share with the public what you're doing your research on. So it's pretty close. And we want people with a passion for policy work and applied work. So we still want very good people. And to be a full researcher for us, so the highest level of researcher in the codes that we use, the requirements are the same as being a professor at the university. That's the equivalent. So when we have a committee to do the evaluation, should you get to take the next, go to the next step, it's the equivalent would be a professor for our what we call researcher 0, which is the top category. So it is pretty similar. So why is this important? Well, our core mission, because the Minister of Finance kind of owns us, we get our mission from them. And the mission is to inform government, public administration, and labor partners. We need to have models, prognosis, applied research analysis to support them. It doesn't sound necessarily like you need the best of the best to do that. But I would say you do. Because if you want to give good advice, and if you want to keep pushing this in the right direction, you do need to know what's on the research frontier. You need to know the data, because we need to, data meaning also Norway, the context policy, but also what data is available. And we need to do good research. So we still go for top-notch researchers with an interest in policy work. And then what we hope is that being a leading applied research environment, we will deliver well on our core mission, but we will also produce papers that are published in top economic journals so that we have play a role also there, and we should be able to compete for competitive research grants and contribute to the development and interpretation of statistics so that we also have that task. So this is what we do. It's still what we do, same as Frisch was saying in 1950. Okay, so now I talked a lot about us. Maybe I should check the time. I think I'm okay. So I wanted to show you some impact cases just to illustrate what the type of work that we do. Of course, we do much more than what I can cover here, but at least it's a little bit of a teaser and to illustrate also how this works. When I say impact cases, we actually produce impact cases and we publish them. We've done that now since 2021, and this has become part of our reporting to the Ministry of Finance, and it is a nice way to show that we fulfill our mission, right? The Ministry of Finance, they want policy support. They want to see that we're relevant, that we know how to give good advice, and that we come up with relevant stuff. And you can publish a lot in academic journals and maybe still be irrelevant in a policy setting. Maybe not, but I think you can. Still you can. So, of course, all these traditional metrics are important. We report on that as well. But we added impact cases to show how we contribute to the societal mission. So the first one I want to show you is this one. So I'm sure you all remember when Austria shut down. At least I remember when Norway shut down. I remember where I was, and I remember at the time I was vice rector at NHH, and we had to send out an email saying to everyone, don't come to work tomorrow, because now society is closing down. We don't know what's happening, but that's how it is, right? It's like, it's one of those events that we will remember for a long time. When this happened, of course, this had never been done before. There were so many things we did not know. So many things policymakers did not know. And part of what they did was to shut down the schools and the kindergartens so that all the kids were home. And the government needed information. And they needed it quickly because they needed to make decisions. So here we played a small role. Of course, many played a role in this, but we quickly responded to this. So researchers in my department put together a report called "What Does It Cost to Close the Education Sector?" This is in Norwegian, but that's the name in Norwegian. And it came in a couple of weeks. How did they do this? So they basically were using the fact that we're uniquely positioned. We have strong knowledge of the research literature, very familiar with the relevant data, and close to the data, so you can access it like this if you really need it. So they used the literature review to find the impact of schooling on future income. So how much less income would you earn if you lose a little bit of school? They used estimates of homeschooling effectiveness that they could find in the literature. They used the Norwegian registry data to quantify the total costs, like how many kids in different ages. They also looked at the productivity loss of parents staying at home having to take care of their kids. And then they concluded that the estimated cost of lost learning was 1.4 billion Norwegian kroner per day. And the Norwegian krone is becoming less and less worth every day, but it's about 12 euros so 12 Norwegian kroner per 1 euro. So this is a significant amount, right? It's a significant amount. So then what is the cost? How much do you save on stopping the spread of the disease versus lost learning? And then they also said there is a cost to reduce parental productivity, but what they could find on that, it was much smaller. So this got lots of attention. It was brought up in debates in other countries. It was mentioned in the parliament in Denmark. You had studies coming out later on, and they basically confirmed the findings of my researchers, that what they put together in a couple of weeks. And the schools did open up. It took some time, but they did open up, right? Probably they should have never been closed. But this, to me, this illustrates that we are close by, we know the research literature, and you can quickly put together something to make decision on because of that position. So research, statistics, quick policy advice. So I have another one. This is the same event. Sorry, no, this is not the same event. This is the event that came a little bit later, because after the pandemic, we were on our way out as the electricity prices surged in the winter of 2021-2022. You had the same thing here, because this was all over Europe. In Norway, like in most other European countries, they introduced support schemes. And again, this had to be done very, very quickly. Before you had the chance to really think about how do you do it, and how do you keep the right incentives while, taking down the pressure on people's financial situation and all that. So they had to do something, and they did something. Here, we didn't. It's twofold. So there are two parts. So first, the households. They quickly introduced measures in Norway, just like in most other countries. We didn't do more than say that, oh, this is bad incentives. You're not giving people incentives to cut their electricity consumption. So that we did say. Didn't matter. But we then, not long after, looked at the impacts on households and how to do this. So we used data from what's called OeAW in Norwegian. This is electricity meters in all housing and units, basically apartments everywhere around Norway, matching this with addresses, property information, so you know how many rooms would a unit have, how many square meters, and so on. And then we had modeled how much power would one of these units use at the price that was before the price surge. So then we have a baseline, right? And then we can see, okay, what happened? How much did they save on their electricity consumption when prices spiked? So then we can check how much different types of household changed their electricity consumption, and we could also see how the support scheme affected different types of households, so the distributional impacts. We found, or my colleagues who did this, they found that the impact varied a lot by income group. So the middle-income household cut their consumption most. They could also see that different types of dwellings, like if you have several rooms, maybe you don't use all the rooms, you could turn down the temperature in the room you don't use so much, then it's easy to cut power. But if you use all your rooms and there are people in all the rooms, it's not so easy, right? So different types of households in different socioeconomic groups would be differently affected, both by the electricity price hike, but also the benefit they got from the support scheme. So in Norway, and I think this is not just in Norway, the ones who got most support were the high-income groups, because they consumed more power, so they got more support. The ones that cut their power bill most were the middle-income people, and the low-income people were not able to cut their electricity consumption, so because they don't have much to cut, right? They need more heat in the rooms that they are, for example. So this got a lot of attention in the debate, because now we knew more about how this actually worked. And of course, they have refined the support scheme over time, but this was definitely looked at when they did that. We also did an additional study when they talked about introducing a company support scheme, so for electricity. Here they did listen. So the analysis that one of my researchers did for the Ministry of Finance, in no time, just connecting the different data sources, looking at this, checking how much are they actually impacted, how many companies are actually paying higher electricity prices, because some of them are on long-term contracts. So it doesn't really affect them yet. This actually, I would say, played a role when they introduced the support scheme that was pretty modest. They did not give much support to companies. And when we did this, although I said that we did this for the Ministry of Finance, it is important for us to be transparent. So our analysis, we posted it online so that anyone could see. This is what we did. These are the assumptions we made. This is what we found. So if people disagree, then that's good. Then you debate it, right? So everyone should have access to the same information. Something that has gotten a lot of attention also is, in several maybe waves, is our work, or my colleagues' work, on income distribution and economic inequality. There's been extensive research on this for many, many years, and it's been published in fine, nice international academic journals. And then over the period 2020 to 2024, this group of researchers summarized their findings and updated it, so with new data, in 3 publications in Norwegian. So this is part of the dissemination. What was it that they did? This is to supplement official statistics with what they call comprehensive income measures. The basis for this is economic theory. If you go back to these old works by Haig and Simmons, what we know is that gross income should equal what you spend on consumption, plus the change in wealth, plus the taxes you pay. So the sum of these terms should be your gross income. If you look at official statistics, it typically focuses on realized income, meaning that dividends, wages are included, but if assets increase or decrease in value, it's not included, and also retained earnings in companies. For example, if an investor has a holding company, and instead of realizing the incomes as dividends, you keep them in the holding company, that's not accounted for. Of course, if you go to the law people, they would say that, oh, but that is not income, of course. But if you go to the economic theory definition, it is income, right? Because your wealth goes up. So these comprehensive measures included then unrealized income in companies. And here are the results. You can see that if we account for private company earnings, or owner income is what they refer to it as. So they take, if say you own 10% of a company, you take 10% of the profits in that company, and you assign to the person. That's how they do it. If they do this, and they account for other types of income too, but this is the one that makes up a big chunk, they find that the income inequality has increased much more since 2001, as if you look at official statistics. So inequality in Norway, you get a different idea if you look at the comprehensive measures that my researchers put together, or if you look at official statistics. And then you can see why people would get confused. But what is the official statistics then? Right? This is research. But they're doing exactly the same thing. They're talking about income and inequality. So this is something that I can assure you this has gotten a lot of attention. And the last report in the series came a few weeks ago. And today there was another piece in the newspaper referring to these results. And it's being used a lot, and it's being debated a lot. So I'm keep going here. So this one is this is another one. This is I wanted also to illustrate how we use our models, because we have 2 microsimulation models. One is called, I had to take this here, Mozart, right? It's Mozart with an S, not a Z. And that's because the S is for schools. So we could not spell that with a Z even in Norway. So, but otherwise it would have been completely Austrian, I guess. But pension wealth is a type of wealth. This also has to do with, it would be something that's relevant when you discuss inequality. Pension wealth is a substantial but often unmeasured component of household wealth. It is not part of official statistics on household wealth. And there are challenges when you measure it. One is that it's basically there is a gap between the micro and macro statistics. If you look at macro, so for example, if you go to the national accounts, you have this included at the macro level. But when you look at the micro data at the household level, it's not included because it's difficult with these contributed plans. So this is often then excluded because of measurement difficulties. For us, we have a model, as I said, Mozart. It's a dynamic microsimulation model that can calculate pension wealth for the entire population. This one has up to 60 years of historical data, going back to the population census, 1964, as you remember, was the first year. And you can run this. It has probabilities for retirement and longevity, and you can run it and look at how different policies will affect the outcome. And it allows for comprehensive analysis of long-term projections of pension. It's been used a lot. This has been used for basically every pension reform in Norway, as long as I was going to say I can remember, but much before that. So these are my colleagues. Elin, to the right, is in the research department. She's now the project leader of Mozart. And she was with colleagues from the statistical departments at the OECD meeting, expert group on distributional household wealth, to talk about their work on calculating pension wealth using the Mozart model. She could do this because she's doing research on this. She knows the data really well. She's a macroeconomist working on microdata. She works on pensions. She knows the model, and she works on this microsimulation model. And we have the data that you need to do these calculations, and we have the model to do it. So this is one of the things that we could do. And I think here you also see how the research insight kind of spills over into the statistical development, because the people next to her, Lene and Marit, they are working on macro and micro type of statistics. So you see you have all this collaboration is fruitful for all of us. Yeah. And I think I have one more example, and then I'm going to try to go to something else here. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, the ecosystem accounting. Norway, like I'm sure Austria and others, have an obligation to develop ecosystem-based accounting now. This is Eurostat, and you have the UN that made a decision a few years back on how to do this. For us, we have had people in the research department that have done research on this area for many, many years. So when this came, they were ready, right? They work with the statistical colleagues. They have done lots of studies on non-market valuation, all these different bits and pieces that you need. They know the international community working in this area. And we can now build on this when we are to establish an ecosystem-based accounting. So there is close collaboration between SSB, both researchers and statistics colleagues, with academic researchers outside of Statistics Norway and public authorities on developing this. I saw earlier in the workshop that the same thing is going on here. And for us, it was a big advantage to have the research knowledge in-house to draw on. And we see this is just an example of how you can utilize this in development. So just what I wanted to show you with these impact cases is that when you have this dual role, we have, I would say, strong knowledge of the research literature. We are close to and we have expertise on the relevant microdata. We have insight into economic policy. And we have extensive experience from applied research with high policy relevance. Putting all this together, we can provide timely and relevant policy support. And we can contribute to the development and production of official statistics. And in addition, we publish in good academic journals and take part in this researcher community. So this was the selling point for having a research department at Statistics Austria. Yeah, but there is a caveat. So I'm getting to that, because as I said, there are challenges. And maybe the biggest one, as I see it, is that academic freedom is crucial. Like we would really fight for academic freedom. It's super important. It is also super important for Statistics Norway. Our researchers have academic freedom. It means that they have the freedom to ask questions and to decide how to best approach them. It also means that they have a special responsibility to disseminate their findings, their research methods, and everything that comes with being a researcher. And they should be able to share independent views. And this, I said this earlier today, but when I started working at Statistics Norway, and I was used to being professor at the business school in the Norwegian School of Economics, I could say whatever I wanted, and it was my own reputation, if anything, right? Because who cares what you say anyways? That's usually how it is. If you say something wise, maybe people will notice. If you don't, they say, but it's just some academic, right? If you go out and you have Statistics Norway on your hat, I'm sure it's the same here, you get a lot of people listen because it is Statistics Norway. This comes with this responsibility. So I also felt that now I have to be careful. I cannot, I shouldn't do anything to mess with the reputation of Statistics Norway. You feel this, right? So I think researchers may hesitate to disseminate findings, to take part in the debate, because they feel this responsibility. But that we can deal with. I think we can just, push people and support them. But to maintain the public trust in Statistics Norway and official statistics is super important. It's as important as academic freedom. So we don't want to sacrifice any of them. So there is a potential tension because the public struggles to distinguish between research findings and official statistics. Just take the example I showed you with the enhanced or comprehensive income measure. Very hard for the public to say this is official statistics and this is just research, right? And I should also say that there could be perceived political biases in research that could undermine the trust in statistics. And we saw that too in that example because we were accused of being leftist when we presented this because it says that there is more inequality in Norway. We never said what you should do about it, but people interpreted us as saying, you need to tax people with high incomes. We didn't say that. I would have not even said it because it doesn't work to tax people because the richest people that are pulling this up, they don't work or they have their income from other sources. But it's kind of misused in the media and in the debate. So then we were labeled as leftist. And of course, this could undermine the trust in statistics and in the institution. And this is a real concern. So something to think about before you open up your research department. It's also something was discussed in the preparatory work before the new Statistics Act in 2019. So what we do, we want to balance this. We want people to take part in the public discourse. We want people to be open to communicate both their research and research methods, which is so important today because of these alternative facts, right? People need to be critical. People need to know how to take information, to ask questions, and how to debate things. So we want transparency and openness so that we can kind of teach people that it is not uncommon that two researchers have different views, right? Then you need to hear what did they do, what assumptions did they make, what sources of uncertainty, and so on, and to ask questions. So I think that's, I wanted just to wrap up. Maybe my time was out a long time ago, but I'm continuing. Public trust in official statistics, it is crucial. It's a common factual basis that's essential for a living democracy. I started with that, and I'm going to end with that. So we do need this trust. We do need to have this common factual basis that we can build on. And then we need transparency and openness in everything we do. We need... I was going to say we need something, but I'm going to get to that in a bit. We, in Norway, have access to exceptionally rich registry data. This has advanced research across many areas. It's not just in Norway, it's in the Nordic countries, and now we see the same thing in other countries. It is so valuable for society to have this and to have this type of research. And then the new data sources just adds to this. So valuable. So we need to be sure that we can do this in a way that both maintains the trust, meaning that we have transparency, we have openness, and we protect privacy, data privacy and data security is really held high. But at the same time, we need to use these data because the insights are going to do so much for bringing us forward. And Norwegian society is characterized by a high level of trust, both in public institutions and in what we produce. So I don't think we would have had all this data if it hadn't been for that level of trust. There is no way, because we have so much data. So we need to maintain that. So we need to use the data responsibly, ensuring privacy protection, upholding strong data security, so that we can continue using the data for the good of society. And I did say that trust is something I haven't talked so much about, but we do need that trust. And to have it, we need to be open. We need to go out and talk about why we do what we do, why debate is important, why you will have, how did you reach your conclusions, so that people ask those questions themselves, so that there are no longer so many alternative facts, there are just facts, right? And we can confront it. I think this is going to be essential to do good for society. We also need that. So I'm going to end with that, so thank you so much.